a partidei. Delgado acolo este. Va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
Shit, what was the song I was going to...
You told me one earlier.
Yeah.
ABBA, Money, Money, Money. That's what
Right,
what
okay. Right, yeah. Money, money, money. Must be funny in a rich man's world. Welcome back to Val Verde Broadcasting. My name is Duncan Casey. This shape of a human here is occupied by Richard Jackson.
That sounds like me.
It does.
My Tinder profile says that.
It just perfectly describes you. And to the movies and that. So today we're going to talk about James Cameron's The Abscess.
The Abscess.
Yams
Cameroon.
Yams Cameroon. The Abscess, about a man with a painful tooth living in a non-socially medicized system. No, it's not about that at all. It's actually about a deep sea researching thingy-majiggy laboratory.
Making
first contact with the L'Allion.
L'Allion.
Le Papillon is also in it because Steve McQueen fell off that thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What's your kind of experience with this film? You've seen it, but not.
Yes, it would be a very awkward conversation.
Yes.
It's been a little while, but it was like I don't know what it was. Obviously, as a child, and I hate to frame things as like when I was a kid, but like James Cameron stuff was always had to be watched. And I think when The Abyss first came to terrestrial television, it was a bit of an event because it came out in '89, so we probably would have got it like 91 or 92 by those standards.
Probably in the afterglow of Terminator 2, I should imagine.
Yeah, so it was something that the whole family sat around and watched because it's I believe it's one of the first kind of PG-13 Cameron things, must be, right?
Yes, I suppose it is.
Because it's relative, it's quite menacing and stuff in places, but it's quite gentle. And it was, again, I've said before, James Cameron is a kind of P.T. Barnum figure, and this was all about the liquid effects.
Yes.
Which then were kind of built upon in Terminator 2. So we watched this as a family.
Oh.
And then, my dad sitting there being incredulous and my mum sort of enjoying it and whatever.
That wouldn't happen.
Bloody rubbish. Yes! Our dads are basically the same. It's possible that we're separated. We watched it as a family and it's something that came on and off, but it kind of faded away for me in among the noise of Cameron stuff, and I need to give it a good thorough watch again, so I will mea culpa, I haven't watched it recently. But.
No. It is that, so I'm trying to think of I suppose some people would say it's the Jackie Brown of Cameron movies. Right. I don't agree with that analogy because I like Jack Brown an awful lot, but it's the sort of all his Cameron, Piranha 2 This Morning aside, notwithstanding, I think it is the least best one, if that makes sense.
Or the Cameron.
It's the one that people it just didn't. I guess it didn't tap into a zeitgeist, I think is how I would describe it. I don't think it just, whereas all the others just hit the culture in exactly the sweet spot they needed to.
Which freakishly so as well, because it was sort of like hit after hit. It's like, two of the highest grossing movies successive in your
It's
career.
what we wanted, we just didn't quite know we wanted it. And arguably I think that it shifted more into that. So it's like Avatar was very much that, but then we didn't want it very quickly afterwards. You know what I mean? But it's like he just somehow has his finger on the pulse.
If he released it a few years later at the height of the people breathing fluid phase, the fad for people breathing,
all those deaths that happened,
forcing rodents to breathe fluid. If he'd done it then,
yes,
it was Pogs, it was Walkmans and Discmans. It was making people breathe fluid. A huge craze.
So it seems to sort of occupy that spot in Cameron movies. It also was not a massive box office success. It was something that I think, as we've discussed it in regards to people like Tim Burton and stuff, but it's like that kind of first big studio picture, big success. Second one, when the restraints are off, it's like the self-indulgence creeps in, the ego perhaps takes over a little bit too much, and you end up with a.
Check out our Tarantino special in a couple of weeks' time. I don't know why I said that. It's completely unrelated to the conversation. Carry on.
God, I'm never working in Hollywood, am I? I mean, it was because by and large the production was they took over this old, I want to say nuclear power, or there was like some huge concrete.
I believe it's still there. that
Yeah.
they used for that. Yeah.
They turned into a tank to film underwater, but it was like outdoors. It had to be covered and heated and God knows what, and all sorts of stuff, and then chlorinated to keep it clear. I mean, it was literally...
And, you know, again, Titanic, they built a huge water tank in order to accommodate the...
next to the sea, so they could have that in the background. You know what I mean? That was literally...
So
like,
it's the world's most expensive infinity pool.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. They've used it for a lot of films, but it's like, yeah, I mean, because with all that, when people say miniatures, they don't mean like that. We're talking like 1 to 10 scale. I mean, it's
you see them
massive.
working on them. It's still vast.
Yeah, I was listening to who was it? Oh bollocks, I can't remember. But there was one of the VFX guys, like model work guys, who had a really cool interview on Radio 4 the other day, and they were like, "Do you take any of? Do you manage to nick any of their props and take them home?" And he's like, "Well, I've constructed like giant frigates and
I've got
planes
nowhere
and
to
shit."
put a 12-foot blimp.
Exactly. It's a bit hard to smuggle that off the set. So, I mean, these are monumentally. Even though I know they're not 1-to-1 scale, but they are massive, massive things. And so I mean, so by and large, that production was. I mean, they literally built an underwater thing. They did all sorts of testing with underwater. I mean, it really was. I know James Cameron, like you say. I mean, he has this pioneering drive behind him that is like, I have to not only make this, but it has to be
It has to be a technical exercise.
I don't think he sets out to make the highest grossing film of all time. I think that's become a thing because he kind of has been doing that for the last 20 odd years, but over 2 films.
Which is mad, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's like 1 a decade, but it's the biggest film ever.
Yeah. But, you know, it's... I don't think that's his goal, but I think his goal is to really push boundaries and to really, like, you know... and The Abyss was a kind of a failed attempt. I mean, I think and certainly in the fullness of time, it's found an audience and is generally well regarded. But I think at the time, it was because it was post Aliens, right? It was his third, apart from France and Spawn, it was his third sort of...
Third and a half film.
Third and a half film. Or if you're Irish, third and a half. Sorry, Ireland. Vote Saxon 07. Anyway, that's not the point. It was, so it was kind of like you'd had 2 pretty big hits, and then it was like, okay, what are you going to do for us now, Jim? And it was like,
isn't it funny as well? Because it's like the sort of the James Cameron dud.
Yeah.
Is this incredible technical feat. This spectacle, this well-regarded film that turned a profit, and it's like, well, that's the Dud's Cameron album, if you like. That's the kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think because Terminator and Aliens were kind of developed by him at the same time, because it was something to do with Schwarzenegger delaying the picture meant that he had a year to write Aliens, and then.
Right.
Then he did Terminator, and then he did Aliens. So it was kind of like those 2 were able to be created kind of. With a decent amount of time behind them, and then I guess this is almost like the difficult second album, really, because it's like, go on then, give us an original property that blows our minds, and it's just, and you know what, and I think maybe that was the point at which he just didn't quite give us what we wanted at the time we wanted it. But it's much like a film like Sphere. Do you remember Sphere?
I've never seen Sphere, but that's a similar kind of nautical.
Thing, plays on things like Solaris and stuff. Very much that sort of. I mean, oddly like Event Horizon, actually, in terms of like they go down and see, they find an alien thing. It's got a big orb-like thing that sort of shows them stuff, and it is that sort of weird. We found aliens at the bottom of the sea type thing. And I gather with the Abyss, it's kind of supposed to be like because he had that fascination with the Mariana Trench, which he ultimately went down, and in a bathyscape, and it's like what's down there. What's at our feet, kind of thing. I think personally, I really like the film a lot. I like the first 2 acts. I think the sort of underwater procedural elements are great because I think it really nails the whole like shit you'd have to go through. It has that alien aspect of like truckers in space, but truckers underwater. It's very grimy. There's a lot of engineering and stuff that goes into it. Ed Harris is great as that sort of. He really feels like your everyman, like engineer guy. He's a nuts and bolts kind of guy, and obviously his wife. Oh, what's her name? I should look the name up. The actress who plays
Mrs. Black.
Maid Marian from Prince of Thieves.
Mrs. Black.
Mrs. Black. She's great in it as well, but she's their relationship is fraught. It's difficult. They have a professional relationship as well. Blah blah blah. And that's a nice little thing to put in there. And I gather that's drawing from life experience because at the time
it culminates in the CPR scene as well.
Yeah.
Which is really like, I remember as a kid just being like, oh my God, I'm feeling things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Instead
it's
of just
visceral
like,
that when he's like, wake up! But he's literally
yeah,
smashing her in the chair. That is and that's great. That's Ed Harris off the chain stuff, which is fantastic. Also recommend Pollock, Jackson Pollock, the Jackson Pollock biopic. That's very
He's
good.
in a George Romero film as well. Night Riders,
right?
Way before he was Ed Harris, let's say.
Nice.
Which is kind of an odd one, but
he's a very intense actor, but this sort of thing is perfect for him. I think he nearly drowned on the Abyss as well.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Working for James Cameron does not sound like fun.
No.
But he has to do the gag with because they actually did that. The kind of oxygen.
Yeah, I know.
fluids,
Did he actually breathe that?
Yeah, he actually did because they got in a bit of trouble, I think, with somebody because they actually did it on the rats.
Right.
But then I believe he does actually do. I don't think that's simulated. He actually does the kind of whatever that is, that kind of oxygenated fluid.
Can you imagine?
It's awful, isn't it? Because you've got to not only do you have to suck it, it goes against everything you know to suck fluid into your lungs.
Yeah.
But then you have to expel it. So you have to do like a lung puke afterwards.
Yeah. Is that like having a lung enema, or like? I mean,
it's a really.
It can't be good for your lungs.
It's to counteract the pressure, isn't it? Or is it?
It's to do because they're so deep. Like which is
it's kind of like you go into that fluidic.
Yeah.
Space inside the fluid-filled suit, which is utterly horrible because it's all your worst fears about kind of claustrophobia and drowning. It's a nice pink colour. Looks like it'd be bubblegum flavour.
That's true. Or like mouthwash, and then you can't.
Listerine.
And then of course he can't talk, and which is again, it's a nice little thing to put a character in because he can't talk, and he's going to get put in with aliens and he can't communicate, and
So it's a first contact situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really nice. That's the bit that I don't like though. It's the alien stuff.
Well, the
kind
actual
of go,
contact scenes.
I can't. This is what I mean. I think if you could come up with a underwater procedural drama, that's great. But I think the problem is it has to have that sci-fi element, and I just don't think it.
Do you think that works?
No, I mean it's kind of like Contact in the sense of like you have wars, we don't like out. Wow. Yeah. And in the sort of like glowy fly.
The actual event of that is quite wishy-washy.
Yes.
Because like and this is the thing. I remember this film as being something that was renowned as an amazing spectacle. And as a child watching it with my family, it's kind of like, wow, that is an amazing spectacle. And at that age, not knowing much better, it put me in the mind of things such as Cocoon.
Right.
Or Batteries Not Included. It's not that, but alien stuff you watch with your family and just watching because the water thing, and it came along in T2 as well, but that kind of animated water, never seen anything like it before. So it's like, I don't know what that is or how they did it, because now that kind of VFX is very common. But I think they talked about rotoscoping it and doing things with stop motion, which fuck knows how that would have looked.
Yeah,
so then it kind of does, because it forms a face, doesn't it? When it kind of extrudes and then it kind of mirrors his face.
It's the water comes out and looks like a serpent and goes around, and it mimics faces it sees and stuff like that. Because that's kind of their way of communicating, is just by showing.
I will say this is something that. So I did an essay on Cameron, and I've brought this up before time and time again, and I do think Cameron is primarily into making sort of theme park rides, really. Speaking as a fan, it's the first director I identified as a young person is that I like that director.
Yes.
Yeah. I think part of the reason Cameron films do as well as they do is because they validate everyone and never say anything too outrageous about anything. Because it's like, what's Avatar saying? War's bad, but trees are good. No one's going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Like, the end net result of the Abyss is, I wouldn't if stop that.
Well, it's anti-war in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because very few people are actually pro-war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so if you sort of like, because Avatar basically says nothing really. It's kind of like, trees and that, don't have wars. All right, thanks. It doesn't. It never upsets anything. It's great spectacle, great drama. There's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't really say, because even the Terminator films, war's bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the thing with Avatar as well is it's like it doesn't. It gets to have its cake and eat it too by. it's tree hugger hippie stuff, but it's on another planet with blue people, so you don't. It's not too specific.
Well, it's soft touch.
Yeah,
it's soft touch. I mean, you could call it preachy, but if you actually look at it, it's not really. It's more concerned with the Smurfs getting their hair sex or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's just far enough into that realm that it doesn't have to be about us.
Well, this what I've said before is I just kind of feel that he takes a pretty wishy-washy message and he wraps it up in this spectacle because people want to see the amazing spectacle on the theme park ride, but they don't want to be talked down to and they don't want to be offended by anything. So you have this kind of quite bland ideology at the middle of it, which is fine, but you don't actually say anything or upset anything, so you're not going to piss these people off, you're not going to piss those people off, and before you know it, you've got the highest grossing film of all time twice.
Yeah.
You know, Titanic. Rich people can be douchebags sometimes, I guess. There's no real.
That's just because he wanted to build a Titanic simulator, though. So we better have a story in the middle of it. Let's have a class-based story.
It's a theme park ride. You know, and that to fabricate the whole. Because that's I don't want to go off topic, but that's a slightly distasteful thing about Titanic is like he actually took names off of graves to use for Jack and Rose. It's like, or don't call him. Oddly enough, at your fingertips, you have a very large pool of really generic names, such as Jack, because I think maybe just Jack's name they took off a grave. It's like, for fuck's sake, that was a real guy, you ghoul. Well, and you've slapped it onto what? The fucking nemesis at Alton Towers? Give me a break. Like, what is that? So, and this is speaking as someone who really quite adores a number of James Cameron films.
Yeah. I mean, I like, so in the context of James Cameron, I think it's I do wonder if it's what then spurred him on to needing to make Terminator 2. I mean, I know it's something that
it definitely feels like a test bed for some of that technology.
Well, it feels like a test bed, but it also feels like I wonder if it was like, no, you need to go back to a successful well now. Because you've made this thing and it's not been the success we wanted.
I mean, it seems that there was will to make Terminator 2 outside of James Cameron.
Yeah.
And then he was brought into it because of the weird limbo of that. William Wisher has a small part in this. I can't remember who he plays. William Wisher being the co-writer of the first two Terminator films.
Right.
So he's the copper in Terminator 2 that Arnold smashes a head on the car.
And
he's the guy photographing him as he falls out the window in the mall. So he's in here. I think he's like a security guard or something. He wrote the draft of Judge Dredd that D'Souza.
He's probably in the boat at the end, isn't he? One of the naval
Maybe it's
people.
that. I remember
because that's about the only other characters there are, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is quite. I like that about it because it's kind of a bottle. And I said before we kind of turned over that it's nice to see a Michael Biehn heel turn. You know, and he's really good as like edgy Navy SEAL guy. Like he's really great.
That guy is fucking great. He really is one of the best actors. I mean, it's a profound shame that he didn't get to do more stuff like that. I'd have loved to have seen him do, like really like leading big movies.
He could have carried a movie, yeah. It unfortunately had like a drink problem and stuff, which we talked about before. Him and then having just watched Dark Fate, like him and Linda Hamilton, I'd love to put them back together in a thing. You know what I mean? Team them up in some other unrelated thing because they're both great in their own ways. Like,
I suppose it's a shame they never got to sort of have another. I know they sort of had a deleted scene in Terminator 2, but they never really got
another swing, right?
Yeah.
This isn't this feels a bit. It's not the kind of James Cameron's not Scorsese or Carpenter with their kind of De Niro or their Kurt Russell. Cameron has Schwarzenegger, he has Bill Paxton, he has Michael Biehn maybe. There's a few kind of loose things in his orbit, people that come back. But Michael Biehn wasn't even supposed to be in Aliens anyway, it was James Remar. This film with Ed Harris, he never did anything again with Ed Harris and the kind of broader cast.
I don't know if that's because he's Ed Harris. You do see that a lot with because I sort of ally him and Christopher Nolan in the same kind of thing, that the way they're regarded and the types of movies they make, different, but they are in that same sort of thing. And they're also it's rare that it's more so nowadays you get the director is kind of the star. Like I do think that about like Chris Nolan has managed to be like, if you put his name on something. Yeah.
Well, that's the niche that Cameron, Nolan, Tarantino, Scorsese, Coppola, and a lot of that happened. A lot of that happened in the 70s. There wasn't in the kind of classical era. You definitely get kind of your Billy Wilders and stuff like that. But the kind of, I don't want to say rock star director, but the kind of name director, the star director, and because Christopher Nolan's managed that kind of penetration on a kind of pop culture level.
Yeah, well, he got it with Batman, which is interesting, and then it's like.
But then he made interesting high budget genre films, so now people go, it doesn't matter what he makes. A bunch of people were probably not terribly interested in the Dunkirk story, but it's a Christopher Nolan film about Dunkirk. I mean, Interstellar, it's kind of a 1970s style. Interstellar, I think, has quite a lot in common with The Abyss, actually.
Well, so let's talk about The Abyss in that context then, because I think you're right. I think it very much has that almost Heart of Darkness, same play on that type of journey. It's less concerned with the journey, because obviously it's a fixed underwater thing, but it has that kind of descent into madness, trip to the unknown, much like any sci-fi space thing, going out, this is going in kind of thing. It's sort of, it has that inner, but it very, again, plays in exactly the same pool as something like that. That they did it. I mean, look, on the cheaper end of the scale is things like The Core, which is, again, the journey to the centre of the earth, basically, and in that sort of late 90s, played for in all seriousness. No. It's that sort of like, no, we got this is serious. We've got to go to the core.
But then when you watch them now, they're really camp, and it's like, what were we thinking? That was the 90s concept. Straight as a die. Yeah, it was that kind of. Yeah. So no, like Batman and Robin is a psychodrama. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah. So it is. Like there was a sort of, obviously we had Armageddon, but that was much later on, obviously, in the sort of more poppy.
And I think this is the thing with that. I'm just gonna, just checking my time there. Unprofessional.
I got it.
You got it. 21 minutes or something.
Yeah.
It puts me. Armageddon tries to do the same thing and does it really badly, like the kind of blue collar exploration thing. It's not really exploration; it's kind of a mission. But like if you've ever seen Ben Affleck's, there's excerpts from Ben Affleck's commentary to Armageddon on YouTube.
No,
they're pretty great because he is very disparaging of the film. And one of the things is like, Affleck is just sort of like, why are they training drillers to be astronauts instead of astronauts to be drillers?
Drilling is the easier thing to learn.
And the only way Michael Bay justifies it is like, oh, they're my team. I need my boys. And there's no, and Affleck's kind of going like, I kept bringing it up with Michael, he just didn't want to hear it. He just told me to shut the fuck up. It's like The Abyss does that, so that kind of blue collar thing. And there's the classic thing, like Day of the Dead does it as well. You have your science and your military odds, which is 100% what's going on here.
Yeah,
Michael Biehn
and then he has that. Michael Biehn has that kind of. He's getting that madness. Not the bends, but it's that he's got that. Yeah. Thing where he's starting to lose it, and it's sort of like cabin fever or whatever. I guess it's that
water fever.
There's literally a point though at which where you've got I think the inherent problem with doing underwater stuff is that watching things underwater is quite underwhelming. In that there's at one point there's a submersible chase, and it just doesn't have the. It's like because the sound design is not something we can really relate to, because it's just sort of like servos and stuff moving around, and then if you cut to the inside of it, you've just got someone going.
And all of that is intensely fascinating to James Cameron.
Yes.
And not really anyone else, particularly.
Marine biologists, I suppose, or deep sea research people.
And look, he spent between Titanic, of course, very famously incorporated actual footage of the wreck and stuff like that. And then between that and Avatar, he was off making documentaries with Bill Paxton in submarines, and that clearly catches him. So it's very obviously a preoccupation of his.
Yes.
Is to have water stuff. Like,
I suppose he got to the point where he had the means at his disposal to do things like that. And look, dude, the guy makes that kind of stuff that fascinates him, and people go and see it and pay all the money. So it's like,
if you want to be nakedly about the numbers, you're not going to beat James Cameron by much. No, really.
I enjoyed Avatar when I first saw it. I mean, that was it. I've no desire to watch it again, but I didn't hate it.
But that's the thing. It's designed. It's basically vanilla porridge, in my view. But,
yeah.
Well, do you know what it is? It's vanilla porridge served in a Roman candle. That's what that is. Like, ultimately. Oh God! Oh, it tastes of nothing. It's strange.
I suppose, but yeah. So it is an interesting film, The Abyss, and it is worth revisiting. But it is one that is very there's a lot of. I think there's just an inherent problem with trying to set what is supposedly a sci-fi action film underwater. I think any time when you're going to spend all the time underwater, which this film does. I mean, it literally doesn't. You're right. There's bits in a constructed, what that could be like an industrial setting, but generally speaking, it's like, yeah, you're just underwater the whole time. And it's kind of like...
I will give it that, because I think conceptually it's quite audacious.
Yeah.
But then there's the reality of your underwater film, and it's like, oh,
when
I
you
have to watch this now.
When you couple that with less than strict editing, I think especially in the longer version.
Another extra long version Cameron film.
Yeah.
Did he ever do that for He didn't ever do that for Titanic, did he?
No,
It's
I don't
33
think so.
hours. I don't know if Avatar... Did Avatar even get like an extra release? I had to watch Avatar for a piece that I wrote, which meant watching it multiple times, and I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm in no particular hurry. But, look, it's kind of the even the redheaded stepchild of the Cameron oeuvre is still a vastly successful, of well-regarded film.
And I suppose in a way it's a bit like his Blade Runner, in that it's like you can garner a lot from it and you can enjoy it, and I do enjoy it and I do like it. I do think it's a good film. It's less of a piece of entertainment perhaps, and I think the moments where it remembers that it needs to entertain its audience is when it kind of lets itself down. I think I almost prefer the kind of the serious take on the underwater, industrial stuff. That's what really works about it. And all the actors are great as well, the performative elements of it and all that kind of stuff. I think where it sort of tries to wander off into sci-fi special effects bonanza stuff, it just feels like that's not, you had me and now you've kind of... There's a moment where they have to go out under the... because they get trapped, don't they? Ed Harrison is...
Yeah.
And Maid Marian. And that's why she ends up stuck in... that's right. They have their submersible fight and they get stuck in there. Anyway, they have to swim back to the thing. Things like that are inherently... It's the human stuff that's great. It's like that stuff. But when he goes down the train, he goes after the aliens or tries to find the aliens, whatever. It's like...
It comes off the boil a bit, doesn't it?
Just takes forever. You're just watching a man sink into a hole for ages. He can't talk.
It's quite nice to see, because the human stuff, they're not... It's one thing, and it happens a lot in films, like the two people meet, fall in love or have sex, have a romantic connection, then one of them nearly dies and they save them. That's one thing, but they're an actual couple.
Yeah.
Which gives it... So I always, even as a kid, like when he's doing the CPR stuff, even as a kid I was like, that's his wife, like that's like my mum and dad, they're married, that's my concept of marriage, like that's his wife, like what the hell, like, and really... Because more so than someone you've just met, which even I'm not saying if I've fell in love with someone over a day and then they got shot, I wouldn't be fine with it. But when it's your wife,
he's shown with Sarah and Carl that he can do that, and he's also shown with that. Do you think it's him sort of talking about his relationship with Gail and her?
Who knows? Because he marries everybody. So who's to say? Yeah. Maybe.
I've only just got the divorce papers through.
Yes, from that time you married James Cameron.
And I've never met him.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't been chosen yet, bastard. I don't know. I mean, it's funny though, because Catherine Bigelow, his ex-wives as well, Linda Hamilton, Catherine Bigelow, Gail Ann Hurd, who are all these kind of really important in Hollywood for whichever reason. He seems to be on good terms with all of them. So whatever it is he does,
I think.
So I don't know. I remember that it just put me in the mind of. There was a kind of not particularly successful film called Clock Stoppers that was produced by Gail Ann Hurd, which was basically essentially a Hollywood remake of Bernard's Watch. Yeah. And Michael Biehn did the kind of heel turn in that as well.
Oh, okay.
Bad guy.
Yeah.
Give me those Clock Stoppers.
Clock Stoppers.
Michael Biehn, give me those Clock Stoppers.
Well, I think we've pretty much exhausted our knowledge, or lack thereof, on The Abyss. I don't know. I guess we were as vague as the film was.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think importantly, it kind of opened up to a wider discussion of James Cameron.
Definitely,
his place in stuff. So I'm happy, even if you're not.
Well, I'd highly recommend it to those of you who haven't seen it. Obviously, to those of you who have, I'm assuming you probably like it, or maybe you feel the same way as we do. Whichever one you are, leave us a comment down below and let us know what you thought. I do that because TGV does that.
Does it?
So I'm just ripping him off.
Oh no,
if you're
we
watching
both
TGV,
are now.
Big love to you. And yes, the Twitter, the MySpace, the Facebook,
Bebo, Have a Hotel, AOL Instant Messenger, MSN Messenger,
all of that good
all
stuff.
That.
Again, down there. So please, if you'd be so kind, check that out. Follow us along. We've got Amazon affiliates. We've got all that stuff, and we have lots more coming up soon. So stay tuned to Val Verde Broadcasting. Adios.
Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Val Verde Shop.